The taiga stretched like an endless ocean of trees, dark green and deep, covering the land with silence. The forest was vast, and anyone who walked too far inside could lose themselves in its shadows. In this great wilderness, two young men walked together, carrying heavy packs on their backs and strong curiosity in their hearts. Their names were Rafi and Umar, friends since childhood, explorers by passion and hikers by habit. Rafi was tall, with a strong build and a simple way of speaking. He carried most of the food supplies, a tent, and cooking gear. Umar was shorter but sharper with details, always careful, always noting things down in a small notebook he carried. He had the map, the compass, and the habit of marking every tree or sign they passed. While Rafi loved the spirit of adventure, Umar valued order and records. The two made a perfect team because one balanced the other. They had begun this journey 3 days earlier from a small village near the riverbank. Their plan was to walk deep into the taiga, beyond the known trails to places where no hunters or travelers usually went. Villagers had told them stories of strange sights and mysterious silences, but Rafi had laughed it off, calling them old legends. Umar, though cautious, had agreed to join, because he trusted Rafi and also because part of him wanted to see if there was truth hidden in those stories. The morning sun rose slowly behind the trees, spreading soft light on the thick forest. The air was sharp and cool, filled with the smell of pine. The ground was layered with dry needles, and every step made a soft crunching sound. Small birds moved quickly between branches, and far away the howl of a wolf carried through the air, a reminder that they were not the only ones living in this wild land. They walked steadily for hours, pausing only to drink water or adjust their packs. Around midday, they found a small stream cutting through the forest. The water was clear, running over smooth stones. They sat near the bank, grateful for the break. Rafi pulled out bread, dried meat, and apples from his pack, while Umar spread the map on a flat rock. Umar studied the lines carefully. His forehead creased as he compared their position with the red trail he had marked before. "We are far from the main path," he finally said. "I think we went too deep into the northern side." Rafi tore a piece of bread and laughed lightly. "That is what we came for, Umar. To go deeper than others, to find something new. Do not worry so much about the map. We will find our way back when the time comes." Umar nodded but kept staring at the paper. His sense of caution was stronger than his friend's confidence. Still, he folded the map, ate quietly, and chose not to argue. The silence of the taiga pressed around them, and after finishing their food, they continued walking north. The forest grew thicker as the hours passed. The trunks were closer together, the ground rougher with rocks and roots. The light became dimmer even though it was still afternoon, for the tall trees blocked much of the sky. They had to watch their steps carefully, using sticks to steady themselves as they climbed uneven slopes. Suddenly, Rafi stopped in his tracks. He raised his hand for Umar to pause. His eyes narrowed, focused on something between the trees. Umar followed his gaze. There, beyond the shadows, was a faint silver glow. At first, Umar thought it might be sunlight reflecting on water, but there was no river or lake nearby. The light was soft yet steady, pulsing gently like the heartbeat of something alive. It did not move with the wind, and it did not flicker like fire. It was strange, unlike anything they had seen in the forest before. "What is that?" Umar whispered, his voice low as if speaking too loud would disturb it. "I don't know," Rafi replied, his eyes still fixed on the glow. "But I want to see it." They walked slowly, their footsteps careful. The forest around them grew eerily quiet. The birds that had been chirping earlier were gone, and even the sound of the wind faded. It was as if the whole forest was holding its breath. The closer they moved, the colder the air became. Rafi rubbed his arms, feeling the sudden chill. Umar's notebook trembled slightly in his hand, though he could not tell if it was from the cold or his own nerves. After several minutes of cautious steps, they reached a small clearing. In the center stood the source of the light. It was half buried in the ground, shaped like an oval, almost like a giant egg or a smooth stone. But it was not stone. Its surface was metallic, shining softly even in the dim forest light. Strange lines covered it, glowing faintly as if alive, forming patterns that shifted when the eye tried to follow them. Rafi stared in silence. His chest rose and fell quickly. His adventurous spirit had wanted to find something new, but this was far beyond what he had imagined. Umar, usually the one who wrote notes calmly, could not lift his pencil to the page. His eyes were wide, his mouth slightly open as if words had left him. The object pulsed with light again. The silver glow spread across the clearing, touching the trees and casting long shadows that danced like moving figures. The ground under their feet vibrated lightly, not enough to throw them off balance, but enough to remind them they were standing close to something powerful. Raffi swallowed hard. "This is not natural," he whispered. Umar finally found his voice. "It is not from here. No stone or metal I know looks like that." He took one step closer, but his heart raced faster with every move. His instincts told him to study it, to record every detail. Yet another part of him, the deeper and older part, told him to turn back. For a moment, neither spoke. The clearing felt heavy with silence. The object pulsed again, brighter than before. A soft hum filled the air, low but steady, vibrating in their bones. Umar gripped his notebook tighter. Raffi clenched his fists, torn between stepping forward or pulling his friend away. In that moment, both of them understood one truth. They had found something that did not belong to the forest, did not belong to their land, perhaps did not belong to their world. The Taiga had hidden it for who knew how many years, maybe centuries, waiting for someone brave or foolish enough to come across it, and now it was before them, shining quietly, holding secrets neither of them could yet explain. Raffi's eyes met Umar's. The fear and wonder were the same in both faces. "What do we do?" Umar asked in a low, unsteady voice. Raffi looked again at the glowing object, then back at his friend. His answer came slowly, heavy with both excitement and dread. "We see what it wants to show us." The strange oval object pulsed with a silver glow. The clearing was quiet except for the low hum that came from its surface. Raffi and Umar stood side by side, frozen between fear and curiosity. They had expected to see rivers, animals, maybe even ruins from old hunters in the taiga, but they had never imagined something like this. Raffi took a careful step closer. His boots pressed softly into the damp earth. The glow reflected on his face, making his skin look pale. He reached out his hand but stopped just a breath away from the metallic surface. A strange warmth radiated from it, even though the air around was cold. "Do not touch it," Umar said sharply, his voice shaking. Raffi hesitated. His hand hovered in the air. He turned to look at his friend. "How will we know what it is if we do not test it?" Umar's grip tightened on his notebook. "Some things are not meant to be touched. Look at it. This is not a machine from here. It is not something human." Raffi lowered his hand slowly but did not step back. He knelt beside the object, studying the glowing lines that ran across its curved body. They shifted like rivers of light, changing patterns every few seconds. The shapes were unfamiliar, not letters, not numbers, not any script he had ever seen. Umar finally forced himself to open his notebook. His hand trembled as he drew quick sketches of the object, copying the strange glowing patterns. His pencil moved fast, but he found it difficult to follow the changing designs. Every time he drew a line, it shifted, forcing him to adjust again. It was as if the object was alive, refusing to be captured on paper. After a long silence, Raffi spoke again. "What if this is old? Maybe something that fell from the sky long ago. Maybe it has been here for hundreds of years, hidden under the earth until now." Umar shook his head. If it was old, the surface would be damaged, rusted, or covered with soil. But look at it. It looks new, shining, clean, as if it arrived yesterday. The hum grew louder, steady and deep. The ground under them vibrated again. Umar closed his notebook and stood up quickly. "We should leave. We have already seen enough. This is dangerous." Raffi stood too, but his eyes were still fixed on the object. What if no one else ever finds it? What if we are the only ones to see this? Should we not know more? We cannot just walk away. Before Umar could argue, the object pulsed with a sudden flash of bright silver light. The trees around the clearing glowed as if lit by moonlight. Both friends shielded their eyes with their hands. When the light softened, they lowered their arms, and what they saw left them speechless. The patterns on the surface had changed completely. Now they formed a large circle in the middle, glowing brighter than the rest. Inside the circle, faint images appeared like shadows behind glass. They moved slowly, twisting shapes that did not look natural. Some looked like stars, some like waves of water, and some like tall figures with long arms. The images lasted only a moment before vanishing. Umar's heart pounded. "It is showing something." "But why? Why to us?" Raffi's voice was low, full of awe. "Maybe it knows we are here. Maybe it wants us to see. The hum faded and silence returned to the clearing. For a while the two stood without speaking, trying to understand what they had witnessed. The forest seemed even heavier now, as if holding secrets in its branches. Umar finally broke the silence. "We cannot stay here all night. We need to set camp away from this place. Then tomorrow we can decide what to do." Rafi looked torn, but he nodded. "Fine. But we mark this place carefully. I want to come back." They used small stones to make a trail and scratched signs on tree trunks so they could find the clearing again. Then they walked back south for nearly half an hour, until they found a flat piece of land near a cluster of tall pines. They set up their tent quickly, though their hands moved slower than usual, their minds still lost in what they had seen. When the tent was ready, Rafi started a small fire, and Umar boiled water for tea. The flames gave them warmth and comfort, but even so they both sat in silence, staring into the fire. The usual joy of camping was gone. Instead, their thoughts returned again and again to the glowing oval deep in the woods. At last, Umar spoke softly. "What if this is dangerous? What if it brings harm, not wonder?" Rafi sipped his tea and looked at the fire. "What if it brings knowledge? What if it is something we are meant to see? You always write in your notebook that nature hides mysteries. Well, today we found one." Umar shook his head slowly. "Some mysteries are better left untouched." That night they tried to sleep, but rest did not come easily. The forest was too quiet, the silence broken only by the faint crackle of the fire. Rafi turned in his blanket, eyes open, replaying the sight of the glowing patterns. Umar lay still, his notebook beside him, every muscle tense. He dreamed of silver lights and strange shapes moving in the dark. When dawn came, the sun rose weakly behind the pines, painting the forest floor with long shadows. They ate a quick meal of dried fruit and bread. Umar suggested they turn back to the village, but Rafi was already packing his bag, ready to return to the clearing. "We cannot leave it without knowing more," Rafi insisted. "What if it changes again? What if it disappears before anyone else ever finds it? This is our chance." Umar hesitated, torn between fear and loyalty. At last he sighed and followed, though his steps were heavy. They walked back to the marked trail, following the stones and scratches until they reached the clearing again. The object was still there, half buried, glowing softly as if it had never stopped. The forest was silent, waiting. Rafi's eyes shone with determination. "Today we go closer. Today we learn what it truly is." Umar stood beside him, heart pounding. The object pulsed once more as if it had heard Rafi's words, as if it was alive and waiting for them. They both knew there was no turning back now. The forest seemed different in the morning light. The sunlight filtered through the tall pines, making long golden lines on the ground. Rafi and Umar moved carefully toward the clearing where the strange object waited. The air was cold and the smell of pine and wet soil was strong. Every step felt heavier than usual, as if the forest itself was aware of what they were about to do. When they reached the clearing, the object glowed softly, exactly as it had the day before. The silver light pulsed slowly, like a calm heartbeat. It seemed quieter now, but Rafi felt it was watching them. Umar stood back slightly, studying the object. He had his notebook open, ready to record every detail. Rafi stepped closer and knelt beside it. The patterns on the surface moved in a way that was almost hypnotic. Lines shifted like flowing water, then formed shapes like mountains and rivers. Then the images changed, showing what looked like lights moving in the sky. Rafi gasped. "Look at that," he whispered. "It is showing something from far away. Stars, maybe? Or other places." Umar leaned in, careful not to touch the surface. "It is not like any map or image I have seen. It is alive, changing all the time. Do you see how it moves on its own?" The light pulsed again, and the ground beneath them vibrated lightly. Neither Rafi nor Umar felt fear as before. Now they felt a strange curiosity. Their minds were drawn to the patterns and images. They could almost understand something, though not clearly. It was like the object was trying to communicate, but in a way humans had not learned yet. Suddenly a soft sound filled the air. It was not a bird, not the wind, not the forest. It was a low musical hum, gentle but clear. Rafi and Umar looked at each other. Their eyes showed the same question. Was the object speaking to them? Rafi leaned closer. He felt a warmth spreading from the surface, but it was not hot. It was comforting, like a sunbeam touching the skin. His hand hovered over it, drawn by the strange force, but he did not touch it. He remembered Umar's warning and controlled his impulse. Umar studied the glowing lines carefully. He noticed that every time he moved his hand closer, the patterns on the surface changed slightly. It was as if the object was aware of their presence. His notebook could not capture the beauty and motion of the glowing patterns, but he tried, drawing every new shape and line. Hours passed. The forest around them was silent except for the occasional rustle of a small animal or the distant sound of water. The sun moved higher, yet neither Rafi nor Umar noticed. They were focused on the object, lost in its mystery. Then something remarkable happened. The patterns on the object shifted to form a circle of light, brighter than before. Inside the circle, faint images appeared again, more detailed this time. Rafi leaned closer and saw shapes like figures walking through forests, shapes moving across mountains and lights flashing in the sky. The images were small but clear, moving like a silent story. Umar gasped. It is showing life. Not just our forest, but other places. Other beings, Rafi nodded. Do you think it is showing the past? Or the future? Or maybe places we cannot reach? Before Umar could answer, the object pulsed with stronger light. A sound like a soft wind filled the clearing. It was gentle but carried a strange energy that made the hair on their arms stand on end. The object lifted slightly from the ground, hovering half an inch above the earth. The vibration under their feet grew stronger. Rafi took a step back, but his eyes were wide with awe. It can move. It is not stuck in the ground. Umar, it is alive. Umar did not speak. He watched, fascinated, as the object slowly rotated. The glowing lines shifted into a pattern that looked like a key. A faint light shot from the object into the air, forming shapes like bridges connecting points on a map. It was beautiful and yet beyond human understanding. The object's glow dimmed slightly and the vibration slowed. Rafi knelt down to observe it closer. The warmth on his hands was steady and comforting. He felt no fear now. Instead, a feeling of understanding grew inside him, though he could not explain it. Do you think it wants something? Umar asked. His voice was soft. Rafi considered for a moment. Maybe it wants to be understood. Maybe it wants us to see, to learn. I feel like it is showing us knowledge we do not yet have. Umar nodded slowly. He had always wanted to discover new things, but this was beyond any lesson or book he had read. It was alive, intelligent, and aware. He could feel it in the vibrations, the hum, and the movement of the patterns. Suddenly a shape appeared above the object. It was a glowing sphere, floating just above the oval surface. Inside the sphere, patterns moved faster, forming shapes of trees, mountains, and rivers. The sphere grew brighter and started to rotate slowly. Rafi reached out his hand toward it, feeling a pull stronger than before. Wait, Umar said, holding his friend back gently. We must be careful. We do not know what will happen. The sphere pulsed and a soft beam of light shot toward the sky. It reached high above the forest like a small star had descended and now wanted to return. The air shimmered with energy, and the clearing felt alive with power. Birds flew quickly over the trees, scared by the strange light, while the wind carried a gentle hum. Rafi and Umar felt their hearts race, but their minds were calm. They were witnesses to something incredible, something no human had ever seen. The object had changed again. Its glowing lines now formed images of moving creatures, not human, not animals they knew, but something alive, intelligent, and strange. Umar wrote quickly in his notebook. His hand could not keep up with the patterns, but he recorded every detail he could. We must study this, he said quietly. This is knowledge beyond our world, beyond our time. Rafi agreed, though he felt a mixture of excitement and caution. We cannot touch it. We cannot take it. But we can watch. We can learn. For the rest of the day, they observed the object. It continued to show strange patterns, shifting images and glowing lines. Sometimes it pulsed quickly, then slowly, as if breathing. The forest seemed to accept its presence, quieting completely whenever the object pulsed. When the sun began to set, Rafi and Umar realized they had spent the entire day in the clearing. They had forgotten to eat or drink, lost in the mystery. Their stomachs grumbled, reminding them of ordinary needs. They looked at each other and nodded, silently agreeing to set up camp nearby. That night they did not sleep in their tent. Instead, they sat near the clearing, keeping the object in view. The silver glow was softer now, almost gentle. They built a small fire at a distance to keep warm, but did not let it come too close, fearing it might disturb the object. They talked quietly, sharing thoughts about what they had seen. Rafi spoke about the beauty and intelligence of the glowing patterns. Umar spoke about the careful observation, the need to record everything, and the wonder of being in the presence of something completely unknown. Neither of them knew if anyone else had ever seen this object. They both felt that the forest had kept it hidden for centuries, waiting for the right moment. They felt lucky and also responsible, as if they were guardians of a secret too great to share with the world. As they finally lay down near the fire, their minds kept returning to the object. It pulsed quietly through the night, a calm heartbeat in the darkness of the taiga. They could hear the hum in their dreams, and both knew that the next day would bring more discoveries, and perhaps more questions they could not answer. The object was alive, intelligent, and mysterious, and Rafi and Umar had become part of its story. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the taiga. The forest was quiet, filled with soft bird songs and the distant rustle of leaves. Rafi and Umar woke early, their eyes drawn immediately to the glowing object. Even in the pale morning light, it pulsed gently, like it was breathing. The glow seemed calmer than the day before, but its presence filled the clearing with a quiet power. Rafi stretched and adjusted his pack. "We should watch it today. Try to understand more," he said softly. Umar nodded. "We cannot rush. We have to be patient. If it is alive, it will reveal things in its own time." They ate a small meal and moved closer. The object pulsed as they approached, and both felt a warm energy spreading through the clearing. It was not heat like fire. It was a calm, gentle warmth that made their skin tingle. The patterns on the surface had changed again. Lines curved into shapes like rivers, mountains, and valleys. Then the shapes shifted, forming moving images of strange creatures walking across unknown lands. Some creatures had long legs, some had wings, and some moved in ways the hikers could not understand. They were intelligent, aware, and alive. Rafi knelt beside the object. He whispered, "It is showing life from somewhere else. I can feel it. Not here, not our forest, but somewhere far away." Umar watched closely. "Yes, it is showing something that exists or existed. We cannot tell time from these images, but they are real. They move with purpose." Suddenly a new pattern appeared. The glowing lines formed a circle in the center, brighter than before. Inside, a small light floated and grew, forming an image of a map. It looked like paths connecting points across a land unknown to humans. Rafi leaned closer, fascinated, tracing the shapes with his fingers. "Look at this," he said. "It is a map of something. Not our world, not our forest, but somewhere else entirely." Umar nodded, careful not to touch it. "It is showing us. Maybe it wants us to understand. Maybe it trusts us to see this knowledge." The object pulsed strongly and a soft sound filled the air. It was musical, calm, but powerful. The vibration under their feet was stronger now. Both men felt their hearts beat in time with the pulsing glow. It was as if the object had a rhythm of life, and they were connected to it even for a moment. Rafi spoke in a low voice, full of awe. "Do you think it can communicate?" "Not with words, but with images, with light." Umar considered. "Yes, it is not human, but it has intelligence. We are seeing its thoughts, maybe its history. It wants us to understand." Hours passed, and the sun moved slowly across the sky. Rafi and Umar did not eat or move far. They watched the object carefully, recording patterns and images in the notebook. Every shift in light seemed important. Sometimes the images showed creatures walking across forests. Other times they showed buildings, cities, or landscapes they had never seen. By mid-afternoon, the object pulsed more brightly than ever. Suddenly, a strong vibration shook the ground and a soft wind swept through the clearing. The trees around them moved slightly, and the forest seemed alive with energy. The glowing lines formed a circle in the center again. Inside the circle, a new image appeared. It was a figure, tall and bright, standing in a landscape the hikers could not recognize. The figure moved slowly, raising its arms toward the sky. Around it, smaller lights appeared, moving like stars in orbit. Rafi and Umar exchanged nervous glances. The figure looked intelligent, aware, and powerful. "It is showing a being," Umar whispered. "Not like us, not like animals. Something alive and conscious." Rafi nodded slowly. "Yes, and it is teaching us something. Look at how the lights move around it. It is showing life, balance, harmony. Everything has a place." The object pulsed again, and a soft glow spread across the clearing. Rafi felt his mind opening, thinking of things he could not describe. The patterns and images seemed to carry knowledge, a kind of understanding that went beyond words. Umar felt the same, though he kept his thoughts focused, careful not to be overwhelmed. As the afternoon passed, the patterns continued to change. Some images were fast, almost like flashes of light, while others moved slowly as if time was stretching. The object showed scenes of forests, rivers, mountains, cities, and creatures living together. It was a vision of balance, of life in motion. Umar took careful notes. He could not capture everything, but he wrote descriptions, sketches, and thoughts. Rafi focused on feeling the energy, the rhythm, and the intelligence of the object. Together they were learning in different ways, complementing each other's understanding. By evening the sun began to set. The light in the forest changed, and the glow of the object became brighter against the darkening trees. Rafi and Umar realized they had spent the entire day observing it. Their stomachs reminded them they had eaten little, and their legs ached from standing and walking. Yet they did not feel tired. The energy from the object seemed to sustain them, giving focus and clarity. They decided to set up camp near the clearing again. This time they placed the tent at a safe distance and made a small fire to keep warm. They did not leave the object's side even for a moment. The glow continued to pulse softly, as if watching them in return. At night they sat quietly. Rafi looked at Umar. "We have seen things no one else has. We have been part of something greater than the forest, greater than our world." Umar nodded. "Yes, but we must be careful. Knowledge like this can be overwhelming. We must not forget our limits." Rafi smiled faintly. "I know, but I also feel that this is our chance. We have been chosen to see this. It trusts us to understand, to learn, to remember." They spoke little after that, letting the calm energy of the object fill the night. Its glow was soft but constant, a steady rhythm in the darkness. They felt connected to it, and to something beyond the forest, something alive and intelligent. Sleep came slowly, but they felt safe. The object pulsed gently, and the hum in the clearing was like a lullaby. Their dreams were filled with patterns, shapes, lights, and landscapes unlike anything they had known. They dreamed of life in other worlds, harmony and understanding. When the first light of morning touched the taiga, Rafi and Umar woke again. The object was still there, glowing softly. Its patterns had changed once more, forming shapes that suggested movement, life, and knowledge. They knew the day ahead would bring new discoveries, new visions, and perhaps answers to questions they had not yet asked. The taiga had given them a gift, something beyond human understanding. And Rafi and Umar knew that they were only at the beginning of a journey that would change them forever. The morning sun rose over the taiga, painting the forest in shades of gold and green. Rafi and Umar woke with a sense of purpose. They had spent the previous days observing the strange object, learning from it in ways they could not fully describe. Now they knew they needed to discover more, to understand what the object wanted to show them. They packed their light supplies, leaving the tent in place, and moved carefully toward the clearing. The object pulsed softly like a quiet heartbeat. Its glow seemed warmer than before, and the air around it vibrated gently, filling the clearing with energy. Both hikers felt drawn toward it as if the object was welcoming them. Rafi knelt beside the oval surface. The glowing lines shifted, forming shapes like mountains, rivers, and forests. Then new images appeared. These were larger, clearer, and more detailed than before. They showed entire landscapes with creatures moving through them. Some creatures were small and fast, while others were tall and graceful. They seemed to live in harmony, each one playing a part in the balance of their world. Umar studied the patterns carefully. "It is teaching us about life, about balance, about how everything has a role," he said quietly. Rafi nodded. "It is not just showing us things. It is guiding us. It wants us to see and understand, not just watch." The object pulsed more strongly, and a low hum filled the air. The vibrations beneath their feet grew, steady and rhythmic. Rafi reached out, feeling the warmth spreading through his hands. It was comforting, calming, and full of knowledge. He understood now that this object was not dangerous. It had intelligence, and it was aware of them. Suddenly, the glowing lines formed a circle at the center of the oval surface. A small sphere of light lifted above the object, floating in the air. Inside the sphere, patterns moved like living maps. Roads, rivers, mountains, and creatures appeared and disappeared, forming stories without words. Rafi and Umar watched in awe, unable to look away. "This is incredible," Rafi whispered. "It is showing life from another world. Not ours, but real. Everything moves with purpose. Everything is connected." Umar nodded, his eyes wide. "It is teaching us something important. Not just images, but understanding. knowledge we could not have found anywhere else. The sphere of light rotated slowly, then split into smaller orbs. Each orb hovered in the air for a moment before joining the others again. The patterns inside each orb moved faster than before, showing more creatures, more landscapes, more harmony. Rafi and Umar felt their minds expand with the knowledge, learning without words. Hours passed, and the sun moved across the sky. The forest was quiet, as if it too was watching the object. Occasionally, a bird would fly overhead or a small animal would scurry past, but they did not disturb the clearing. The object pulsed steadily, glowing brighter in the soft sunlight. Rafi spoke softly. "I think it wants us to see how all life is connected. Not just here, not just now, but everywhere. The patterns, the creatures, the landscapes, they are all part of a greater plan," Umar agreed. "We are lucky to witness this. We must remember everything. This knowledge is precious. It is not for us to control, only to understand." The glowing lines shifted again, forming shapes like bridges connecting points on the maps. Rafi realized these were paths, not just images. Paths that connected life, energy, and balance. The object was teaching them not only about the creatures and places, but about the flow of life itself. The sphere pulsed, and a soft wave of energy passed through the clearing. Rafi felt it in his chest, a gentle pressure that filled him with calm and understanding. Umar felt it too, like a key turning in his mind, unlocking thoughts he had never known. As evening approached, the object pulsed one final time for the day. The light spread across the clearing, touching the trees, the ground, and even the hikers. It was a moment of harmony, a connection between them, the object, and the forest. Rafi and Umar felt a sense of peace unlike anything they had experienced before. Rafi looked at Umar. "We have learned more than we ever could have imagined. This object is not just a mystery. It is a teacher, a guide. We must honor it, respect it, and remember it." Umar nodded. "Yes, we are part of this story now. We cannot take it with us and we cannot reveal it. But we can carry its knowledge in our minds, in our hearts." Night fell over the taiga and the object glowed softly, casting silver light over the clearing. Rafi and Umar sat near it, feeling the gentle hum in the air. The warmth from the glow filled them with energy and calm. They did not need sleep. They simply watched, learning in silence, understanding the rhythms of life and the flow of energy around them. As the stars appeared above, the object pulsed in harmony with the night sky. The glow reflected on the trees and the forest floor, creating a path of light that seemed endless. The two hikers understood that this was a gift, a rare and precious experience. They had been chosen to witness it, to learn from it, and to remember it. In the early hours before dawn, the object changed one last time. The glowing lines formed a single image of a figure, taller than any tree, standing with arms raised. Around the figure, lights moved like stars, orbiting in harmony. Rafi and Umar understood that the figure represented life itself, the connection of all things and the importance of balance. Rafi whispered, "It is showing us the heart of life. Everything is connected. Every creature, every place, every moment." Umar nodded, his eyes reflecting the glow. "We will carry this understanding with us. We will respect it, share it in ways we can, and remember it always." When the first light of morning touched the clearing, the glow began to soften. The object settled slightly into the ground as if resting. Rafi and Umar felt that the time for observation was ending. They packed their things carefully, leaving the clearing undisturbed. They knew they could return, but they also understood that the knowledge they had gained would stay with them forever. As they walked back toward the forest edge, the object glowed faintly behind them. Its light was calm, steady, and full of life. The hum faded into the forest, and the taiga returned to its normal rhythm. Birds sang, leaves rustled, and small animals moved quietly through the underbrush. Rafi spoke quietly as they walked. "We have seen something no one else has. Something incredible. We will never forget this," Umar smiled. "Yes, and even though we cannot explain it, we understand it in our own way. That is enough." They walked together through the forest, carrying the memory of the object and the knowledge it had shared. The taiga stretched endlessly around them, beautiful, mysterious, and full of life. They felt connected to it, and to the object and to the greater world beyond. Days later, back in their village, they spoke little about what they had seen. No one would understand fully, and that was not important. The knowledge, the understanding, and the memory of the glowing object stayed with them, changing the way they saw the world. They knew that life was connected, that every creature, every place, and every moment mattered, and that some mysteries were meant to teach, not to be owned. Rafi and Umar often returned to the edge of the taiga in their thoughts, remembering the clearing, the pulsing glow, and the lessons they had learned. The object remained a secret, a wonder hidden deep in the forest, waiting quietly for those who were ready to understand. In the end, the two hikers realized that their journey had changed them forever. The taiga had given them a gift, the chance to witness something greater than themselves, to learn the rhythm of life and to carry that knowledge in their hearts for all time. And the object, still glowing in its hidden clearing, pulsed softly, patiently, like the heartbeat of the forest itself, knowing that its story had been seen, understood, and respected.